Hello everyone, it is Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything back with another Q&A video. This is, I believe, the 6th or 7th Q&A video. It has been a while since I have done these. What this section is I just take a bunch of questions that you guys have asked me, and I get to answering them. I appreciate all the questions as always. If I didn't answer your question, I do apologize. I get a lot of them, and it's just impossible with YouTube's kind of off-comment system to get to every question. This is a segment I used to do every other Sunday, so every 2 weeks I would post a Q&A, but once college started, once my job started, which is on campus, it just was going to be these videos do take a lot of time to make. It was going to be way too hectic for me to do them every other week, especially because I want to add the anime versus manga character comparison and the fantasy duels, and I just wanted to add those segments in, so this is going to be every month. I did say in my video it would be the first week of every month. I decided it's just going to be every month. It might be the first week, it might be mid, it might be the end. I don't want to constrain myself to a schedule, but what I can promise you is that it will be out every single month. Also, if you want to ask me a question, your best bet is to ask me a question on this video. So comment down below at the end any questions you guys have, because I get so many questions from you guys, and it really is great, and it is flattering, that I just usually pull them all from one video. I don't usually, like, if you ask me a question for the Q&A in a cast list analysis, I probably won't end up pulling it from that video. So your best bet, of course, it is to message me on Twitter or Instagram, but if you want to comment on YouTube, I know that's the most convenient thing. Comment down below, I will try my best to answer your questions. So, with that out of the way, this video, usually I try to keep these between 40 and 45 minutes. This one, I obviously am just getting to recording, so I have no idea how long it will be. Might be a little longer than that, and that's to kind of make up for the fact that this is now a once-a-month thing rather than an every 2-week thing. So, if the video seems a little longer, that's why. You can find timestamps to every question in the description below. Anyway, we're going to get right to it. I really hope you guys enjoy. As you know, a question that piques my interest, a topic that piques my interest, is usually what I will use for the first question. Not to say that the other questions don't pique my interest at all. They are. Every question I get is I always say, there really is no such thing as a dumb question. I know you hear your teachers say that, but it is true. Any question you guys have, I think it's a very every question is interesting. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But this is one that particularly piqued my interest, and it was asked by Angel of Darkness. Q&A, do you think that Yuzu even has a mom? Her father stated nothing about her, but he also said that Yuzu had her bracelet ever since she was born. Maybe he adopted Yuzu, or maybe her real parents dropped her off at Shuzo's thinking she would be safe, or maybe Yuzo and her counterparts are not human and the bracelets are just a part of their powers, kind of like Astral and the Baryons, maybe a third world we didn't know about in Zexal. Yeah, my headcanon's theories, speculations are everywhere, but everyone's theories are everywhere when it comes to Arc 5, so there's nothing wrong with that. I like this topic a lot, because this to me is a very interesting topic. In Duel Monsters and GX, people were actually pretty critical, well, you know, certain groups, like, people complain about everything, that parents weren't shown and that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was giving off a bad message because these were kids that had no parental guidance and were just roaming around the world freely. And I think they actually kind of took that into consideration, because they were criticized pretty heavily for it. I think it was dumb, but again, people will find anything to criticize. In 5Ds, Yusei was shown that his parents were, they were killed. They were killed in a tragedy. Jack and Crow were orphans, so at least they kind of brought, like, we don't know if Judai was an orphan or not. We don't know if I guess Yugi had his grandfather, and I think there was a mention of his mom at some point. I might be wrong about that, but like the other characters, there was no mention at all whether they were orphans or not. 5Ds kind of gave more backstory on that. And then we get to Zexal, and Yuma's mom and dad and his grandma, his sister, his family have actually a pretty important role to play in the show. And now we're at Arc 5, where parents are definitely the most important out of any Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. You have Reiji Akaba's dad and mom, who are both, his dad especially, extremely involved in the plot. Yuya's dad, extremely involved in the plot. Yuya's mom was even involved in the plot pretty early on. And then we look at Yuzu's parents, and we look at Yuzu's dad, Shuzo, and it just has always kind of made me curious that her mom is not around. And I like the part in this question that says maybe they're not human. There's a lot of theories that maybe these are like the gods of creation, Yuzu and her counterparts, and that Yuya and his counterparts are the gods of destruction. And I like that theory a lot, that maybe Shuzo isn't even her father, because when Yuzu kind of even asks, well, Yuzu said to Yugioh, I believe, that she didn't meet her mom. She never knew her mother. And Shuzo he gave a very weird answer, and I think it's a very strange answer when he just said, like, oh, you were born with the bracelet, and then Yuzu's like, I didn't come out of the womb with it on, and I always found that funny. And Shuzo, it was just kind of an awkward scene to me, not awkward in terms of development, but awkward in terms of, like, the exchange between Yuzu and her father. So what do you guys think? Do you think that her mom might play a big part in this story down the road? I personally don't think so. Or do you think that maybe Yuzu really doesn't have a mom and Shuzo isn't her real dad and she was kind of just dropped off at the Shuzo Duel School one day, and we'll find that out later, and she was, she has ties to the god of creation, the goddess of creation, thousands and thousands of years ago? Is that possible? It definitely is, and it's just it's a topic that just kind of adds more confusion into what is already an extremely confusing and speculative plot. But I just want to hear what obviously you guys feel free to comment as many times as you want about as many questions as you want. But this is one in particular that I want to really hear your opinions on, because it's something that was asked in my last Q&A very briefly, and we get a little more detail here in this question, and I really like the question. A couple other people asked it, but I couldn't find their comments, so I do apologize. Again, it says 1 week ago this was asked, but I took these pictures 2 or 3 weeks ago, so these are kind of older questions in terms of, like, they were asked like 3 or 4 weeks ago. But please leave your comments on what you think Yuzu's mom, who she is, down below. Or I'm kind of leaning towards maybe she doesn't have a mom and she is maybe like someone like Astral or the Baryons. But it's definitely an interesting topic. Mike Rangel asks, who do you think would win a duel, Yusei without the dragon from Comrades, or Kaido? I'm thinking Yusei, but let me know what you think. I was trying to come up with a personal list of top 5 duelists in the Yu-Gi-Oh universe, and I only got Yusei and Kaido down as locks. Yeah, that's tough. I'm not gonna give my my list on top 5 duelists, because that would take me a while to think of, and it could be a top list down the road. Who do I think would win? That's tough. That is such a tough question. They are 2 very good duelists. And this maybe could be a matchup for a fantasy duels matchup down the road, Yusei versus Kaido. I think that would be the first one, obviously being Jack and Kaiba. That could be a fantasy duels aspect. So, because when you ask me who do I think would win, I think 3 terms: anime, manga, and real life. And by real life, I mean you strip the decks from the characters. You don't think about the characters. You just give the decks to 2 players of equal skill, and they duel. Those are the 3 segments that I guess I basically just explained what I'll be doing in the fantasy duel segment. In the anime, I'm gonna say, this is tough. This is really tough. It really is a coin flip. I'm gonna say Yusei, but that's tough. That is really tough, and that's just like a genuine. If I did a fantasy duel, I'd really analyze this for like an hour or 2, and then I'd give a real reason. I don't really have a reason why I think Yusei would win, so I'm not confirming Yusei. If I had to just pick right now, I would pick Yusei, but that's a very interesting duel. Blader asks, my next question is about the Yuya and Yuto combination power. Would it be possible if Yuya gets carded that it might separate the 2 of them, like how the Seal of Orichalcos stole Yugi away from a Tem back in Duel Monsters? Personally, I think it might up the stakes if Yuya has to rescue Yuto if he were to get carded, or more interesting is if Yuya's soul gets carded and Yuto has to rescue him. I like that a lot, Blader, but my issue is we're so late in this show now. We really only have about less than 30 episodes to go. And the Seal of Orichalcos arc was an entire arc on its own. So if we're at like episode 70, I'd say, yeah, let's do this. Like, let's do this for the next 30 episodes. I think that would add a lot of backstory kind of to their characters and show how much they care about each other, and maybe even hint at, a link between them a link to the past, a link between them, years, thousands of years ago, where they kind of can sense where they are and everything, and, something like that. But with how late we are in the show, I don't think it's going to happen. It would be very interesting if Yuya got carded and Yuto took over as the main lead. They've never done something like that. That would be a huge plot twist. But this late in the show, with how many characters and unanswered questions are still left, I don't see them doing something like it. But it would be really interesting, because I have been asked a few times, what would happen if Yuya and Yuto got carded? Would they both get carded? Would one of them get carded? It's definitely an interesting topic. What I think would happen, honestly, I don't think it will. Yuya would get carded, and I think Yuya's the only reason Yuto is living on right now, so I think Yuto would I don't think he would be able to continue on his own. That's just my personal opinion, though. Olawol Oleodun, I know I butchered that name, I apologize. When Yuya summoned his new fusion and synchro monsters for the first time, he had a sort of vision of what they were before he officially summoned them, but with his XZ's monsters, he was possessed the first time he summoned them. Do you think this implies that XZs have some personal power or darkness associated with them that the professor signaled out to deal with first? Maybe it's because of Yuya's XZ's monsters are based of Dark Rebellion, being a Dimension Dragon and nothing more. What are your thoughts? I hope you see this. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Kolawol. And I have to say, I actually like that a lot, that maybe that is why they went after Heartland first. Now we have, this was again asked like 3 weeks ago, we know the dragon, it's Odd Eyes, it's not Odd Eyes Violent Dragon, let me look it up real quick. It's Odd Eyes Raging Dragon, the Supreme King Violent Dragon. This was on the cover of Raging Tempest, and I gotta say the dragon looks sick, and when I see this I do get very worried about Ruri and Serena, because it's obvious that they're going to use this in the duel. I think someone else asked about Raging Tempest, so I'll get more into this dragon later, but it does seem like the XZ's monsters are just a lot darker, and that could be because he's fused with Yuto, and because two of them are together, the darkness inside them is stronger than like when he uses a fusion or a synchro or something like that. That could very well be it, but I don't know. I am nervous for this next duel between the Bracelet Girls, because I'm nervous. I really am. I think Yuya's gonna go into Berserk again. We haven't seen it in a while, and we'll see what happens, but I'm nervous. I am. Schutzgeist asks, if someone from Konami asks you to rewrite Arc 5 with the different dimensions being the show's fusion, dual monsters, synchro 5Ds, XZ Zexal, standard Yuya's world, how would you write it? Characters the same, important, developing, role of characters, dimensions, story arc. How would I rewrite it? Well, this is a tough question. This is a question, honestly, I could go on for about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not going to get into really what I would have done is I would have shortened the Synchro arc to about 30 episodes. Synchro arc could have been episodes 50 to 80. That's what I would have done. We get to Heartland. We can spend maybe 20 episodes in Heartland, give Edo and the Tyler sisters more time to develop and make their kind of, even 30 episodes, because then we're at 110, and now that's when it ended anyway. Right? That's when we went more to Fusion and left Heartland in 110 anyway. So instead of giving that 10 to 12 episodes, let's give that 30 episodes. And let's let those characters develop a little more. Let's add a second Zexal character and let those 30 episodes play out, rather than have 10 episodes, snub Zexal of a second character, which is kind of messed up, and give Edo and the Tyler twins a couple of big wins, and just make Alan and Sayaka, make all those characters feel more important and not rushed. And I think we'd be in the same place we're at right now. I would have made the Battle Beast duel a little shorter, but that's nitpicking. That's the major thing that I would have done differently with Arc 5. Juho Tapajarvi, I know I butchered that name as well. I apologize. Hey man, glad to hear from you again. Here's my question. If you could be transported into any one of the Yu-Gi-Oh animes with a deck of your choosing, what series and deck would you choose? Oh, and one last question. What wasted plot point from all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Series past the original do you think was the most important? For me, it's a tie between Franz with his copy of Raw. That's right, and the Arcadia movement, since I think it would have been a neat idea to have people running around with copies of the Egyptian God cards, and Arcadia movement was just so damn cool. Yeah, I completely forgot that the Winged Dragon of Raw did make kind of a cameo in GX, right? I don't know why. That should have been a decent, that was kind of butchered. You're absolutely right. In terms of the Arcadia movement, that is, I mean, I still feel like Divine should have been the main villain of that show. I really do. He was he killed like a 10-year-old kid. That's one of the darkest things Yu-Gi-Oh! Has done. He was just a sick guy, and he should have been the villain. And 5Ds really lacked evil villains. Divine would have been perfect. You would have had Aki, who could have had a bigger role down the stretch. Arcadia movement, absolutely, for me, personally. And if I had to pick an anime with a deck, I probably would pick GX. I don't want to say Gem Beast, because Johan... Oh, I'll use Gladiator Beast. That's what I'll pick. Gladiator Beast and Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Atemi YGO. No idea how 4Kids can censor Yu-Gi-Oh! Kissing scene, but they keep the Pokemon kissing scene in movie, too. I actually don't know that Pokemon kissing scene. If you could comment that down below. I'm too lazy to look it up. The Yu-Gi-Oh kissing scene he's referring to, there was actually a scene in Zexal where Yuma's sister and her gambler boyfriend, he got possessed by one of the numbers, kissed, and 4Kids completely blocked it out for whatever reason. I really don't know. Anyway, the main question, sorry. Do you think the 6th show could have an arc revolving around the Monarch archetype, cards used by characters in GX? I think their names were Frost and Spark, and Sawatari, he used a Water Monarch deck against Yuto. It's an archetype I would love to see villains use in some sort of arc involving 6 duelists using the monarchs of that element, and they want to ally an army of duelists who use their respective elements to conquer all 6 continents. Used to be known as 7, but a lot of scientists refer to it as 6 by treating Europe and Asia as combined, or even, you just kind of snub Antarctica because nothing's going on there, in order to create a new world order or revive some sort of ancient monarch. Didn't know if this could be an arc or a whole series plotline. I like it a lot. I mean, it sounds kind of good. Again, I don't know too much about archetypes and such, but I do remember the duel between Yuto and Shingo. I don't remember it in GX. I do apologize. I'm going to probably look that up after. I don't doubt that it happened. It's just hard for me to remember every single episode. I don't remember it in GX. I'm hoping it wasn't a major thing because then I'm going to sound kind of like an idiot, but I'll look it up myself and let you know. But I like that. I like, I would like villains going for kind of a world domination thing because we've never really seen that in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I'm trying to think. Everyone's just kind of trying to destroy the world rather than taking over the world. And, right, because I think in Don 1000 was trying to destroy the Earth and Astral World. Zone was trying to destroy his current world, or Yusei's current world, I should say. Darkness was just trying to destroy the world, kill everyone, send everyone into darkness, literally. And in Duel Monsters, Bakura was just trying to destroy the ancient past, which would have destroyed the current world. Yeah, so we've never seen, unless this is what Leo Akaba's trying to do, in a way, maybe it is, we've never seen a villain try to do world domination in Yu-Gi-Oh! That is something that I would absolutely be down to see. I really would. I like that idea a lot. D01, what do you think about a Yu-Gi-Oh series if it happens for an older audience where the main protagonist fights a mental illness such as depression or anxiety instead of fighting some sort of evil? Well, that's interesting. There would have to be some sort of antagonist though, because for it to be Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to be you can't duel against depression or anything like that. I would like it a lot. I don't think they would do something that dark. That is, but it's something that I think everyone, maybe when you're above 14 or so, can relate to. I mean, I know I've been very stressed out about things, and I don't want to say I've been depressed, but there have been times where I've kind of felt down about things, and I think everyone has gone through difficulties in life. So this is something that people would be able to relate to, but I just think when they're looking at their target audience, even if it's more teens and adults, which I think it is, they still do have that element of 10 to 12-year-olds that they're trying to bring into the show, and I just think that would be very over the top, personally, but I'd be down with it, because I think that would be a really interesting show. In fact, when I do my Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Things You Missed, Things You Didn't Know, I actually think a character in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX expresses signs of having a bit of a mental disorder. A main character, in fact, someone who appeared in Arc 5, so it's either Edo or Asuka. I'll get into that when I do my Things You Missed and Things You Didn't Know about Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. That's a theory on, maybe it'll just be a separate theory video, but I am pretty sure that there is that one of those two characters, Asuka or Edo, I won't say which one, has a bit of a mental disorder in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I'll save that for a different time, but, so maybe they've done it in, that's a theory on its own. I don't want to say maybe they've done it or not, but it would be very interesting. What do you guys think about that? I think it would be too adultish for Yu-Gi-Oh, but I wouldn't mind if they did it, personally. Mohammed M asks, do you think Declan will be Traitor of Lancer, same as Rex Goodwin and Heartland? Do you think it is true, Roger, episode 99 about Declan destroying Synchro? Well, and that's the first question. He makes me nervous, Reiji, I will say it, or Declan in the dub. He does make me nervous. I don't think Declan is going to stab the Lancers in the back. I actually think he is going to fight for them. That's just me personally. I don't think what Roger was saying about him wanting to destroy Synchro was true, because he left Synchro. He obviously didn't destroy it. If he destroyed it, Jack would have said something about it when we saw Jack, so I don't think that was true. Second question, what do you think of 5v2? 5 U-Boys versus Declan and Leo? Well, I don't know where the 5th U-Boy, you might have meant 4 U-Boys. I still don't think that would happen, because again, personally, I don't think Declan is going to stab them in the back. And then the final question, if Doctor or Leo Akaba was dueling, do you think they will use Parasite or Brainwash, same as Rin and Lulu, during the duel? English dub names. I do not think they would use the Parasite. I don't. I think Rin and Lulu already have the Parasite. I think that's in their decks. Maybe they would have a card that is very easy, like it's a magic card that basically destroys the Parasite if they had to duel. But as long as Rin and Lulu have, or Rin and Ruri in the original, have the Parasite in them, they're not going to duel Leo and the Doctor. If they lose the Parasite, then maybe the Doctor or Leo, and that might have been what you were asking, will use the Parasite to try to re-brainwash them. I'm not sure. That'll be interesting. I think the Doctor's next duel might very well be against Kaido. That's what a lot of people have been saying, and that's where Kaido's headed, and you're not going to stop Kaido when he's on a mission. So we'll see if there is a duel where the Doctor and Leo Akaba team up. The Supreme King, for Q&A, do you think at some point the darkness inside Yuya will take over and be the potential villain? Yes, I do. I think this will probably be the final villain. I know at one point I theorized that it was Seto Kaiba, haha. It's not Seto Kaiba, clearly. When I made that video, I didn't think it was... it was a long shot, but... And I say that... I say that now too much. But anyway, I do think that this is going to be the final villain. And if it takes over Yuya and the U-Boys, who's going to stop it? Right? If it's controlling Yuya... Who's going to be, like, every Yu-Gi-Oh show, the main villain gets defeated by the main protagonist. It could be different in Arc 5, and that would be really interesting. Maybe, like, Reiji and Yuzu team up or something like that. That would be kind of interesting. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I would like that twist. If Yuya being controlled is the main antagonist, I would actually like that a lot. And the final duel, we're rooting against Yuya because it's not really Yuya. I'd like that a lot. I really would. Waliji Day, do you think Yuya will get put inside a card on purpose so that he can rescue everyone put inside a card? I like that a lot. In fact, a theory that I was beginning to come up with was maybe Yuya gets carded, and when he gets carded, he gets transported to like a ritual dimension where he gets a ritual Odd Eyes, which does exist. I think it's Vortex Dragon. And he's able to he uses that ritual monster to defeat Leo Akaba, like he gets revived somehow. But that theory needs a lot of work. I don't think so. I think the way to revive them is to turn off that green machine, or do something with that green machine that we've seen in Opening 2. We've seen it behind Leo Akaba when Sora went to him and wanted to go back to Standard to destroy Shun. So that's what I think is the trick to destroying, or reviving everyone put inside a card. Franklin Cypher asks, I'm going to skip number 1 against these were asked a while ago. Number 2, do you think Yuya will use Berserk Mode in a positive way? I do not. I think Berserk Mode, again, alludes to that darkness inside him, which I think is going to be the main villain. That's why I worry in 125 when he duels Ruri and Serena. I'm just nervous. I really am. And the final question here, Yugioh will fuse with Yuya. Not sure. Probably. I think they're all going to fuse at one point. Some people say Yugioh's going to fuse with Yuri first. I wouldn't like that personally. I think eventually all 4 U-Boys will be fused together, eventually. Zart Maidishin Zafir, again, if I butchered the name, I apologize. Shouldn't Ryo Marufuji still be alive in GX? He was only 3 to 4 years older than Asuka, and you're my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTuber because I really like your work. Thank you so much. Really does mean a lot. And here's the thing, Ryo Marufuji, he should be alive, but this is not Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. This is not the same universe. So even though Asuka, age doesn't really mean a thing. So because even though Asuka is in this show and so is Edo, Judai might not be in this universe. Ryo Marufuji might not be in this universe. Asuka might not have Fubuki as a brother. It's all different because this is a different universe. So even though the ages are similar, which they absolutely are, and by that logic, you would figure him to be alive. It's not an exactly mirrored universe of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and because of that, we just don't know who from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is alive, and who from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX just doesn't exist in this alternate dimension. Diavolo Dick Rider, that's a username. Q&A, but to the question, sorry for the little rant, you're good, it's just a rant about pendulum summoning. Let's say Arc 5 is finished and every question we have so far in the anime is answered, and if there were a movie, what do you think would happen? Or rather, what would you want to happen? If there's a movie, I honestly think if there's a 6th show, we had a movie with the first 3 protagonists, why not have a movie with the next 3 protagonists? Why not have Yuma, Yuya, and whoever the lead is in the 6th series all get together and duel? They would probably duel a character similar to Paradox. Maybe it would have a bearing on the 6th series, But right now, it's tough for me to say because Arc 5 isn't finished, so I don't know how it's going to finish. So for me to say how, and I know just assuming every question is answered, that I think the next movie maybe is going to be the 4th, 5th, and 6th protagonists. Kind of like the first 3 had their own movie. Reggie with Jack or Kite versus some super strong Academia duelist. Which tag duel would you like to see? I would rather see Reggie with either one of them is great. Probably Kite. I'd rather see Reggie with Kite, but you can't go wrong with either one. Ryan Briggs asks, ever since Yugioh appeared in Arc 5, I thought he was going to die, get carded, and I think it might happen in front of Yuya, and either make him go into Berserk or make him really sad and have a really powerful scene. Either way, what do you think? I actually agree with this 100%. I don't think we're going to get a Yugioh Yuya happy reunion scene. I think Yugioh is going to get carded right when Yuya shows up into the vicinity. Maybe he's going to do Leo Akaba, maybe not, or maybe Yuya is going to be completely taken over by this darkness, and Yugioh is going to be the one that tries to duel him and get through to him. Yugioh dies, maybe it snaps Yuya out of the darkness, and Yuya takes on the darkness. That's just a theory I came on with myself. That's just a theory I just came up with right now. I think he's going to get carded. I really think like 90% of the cast is going to get carded. So, when will it happen? Not quite sure. Reiha asks, how do you think Yuya would react if Yuzu is going to be brainwashed? Do you think he would rampage? Yay for Berserk mode. I do. But maybe not, because he's been pretty calm recently. You have to remember, he saw Crow get carded, had no reaction. He saw Tsukikage get carded, had no, and by what I mean no reaction, sure he was upset, and when Crow got carded, he seemed very peed off, but he didn't go into Berserk mode, which is very important to note. When Tsukikage's brother got carded, and Yuya didn't even know Tsukikage's brother that well at that point, he went into Berserk mode. Now sure, it was because maybe Sora was the one who carded him, but still, he knew Tsukikage a lot better than he knew his brother, didn't have as much of an angry reaction, so I think he would probably be able to hand it kind of calmly. I would love to see a Yuzu brainwash duel, and I wouldn't mind if Yuzu won that duel, but we'll see. I don't think he would go into Berserk mode, honestly, but if he's going to go into Berserk mode against Serena and Ruri, then probably he would go into... I just don't know what causes Berserk mode. We know it can be caused by, like, Roger caused it in Synchro, so I don't know. He might not go into Berserk mode himself, but he might be forced to go into Berserk mode by an outside force. Hey Ratishan Sensei asks, we know Akaba Leo says you will learn the truth to Yugioh or something like that. Do you still think Akaba Leo is trying to dominate all dimensions, or is there another reason for his actions? I mean, he might be a good guy or he thinks he's a good guy. Maybe he's trying to fuse all the dimensions to rescue Yuya, and Yuya-like people from the other being in Yuya's inside. And when it's all finished, Leo might be planning to release all the people who are carded. Maybe the main villain is the other being in the Yuya's inside, not Akaba Leo or Seto Kaiba or something like that. Yeah, well, I'll say this to your last point. Akaba Leo and Seto Kaiba definitely are not going to be the main villains. I think it is going to be the being inside Yuya. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that Akaba Leo is not as evil as it seems. Maybe he's a lesser evil, and he's trying to sacrifice certain people. That's why he's carding people to save everyone else, which is kind of like a lesser evil kind of standpoint. He's definitely not the main villain. I don't know what he means by you will learn the truth, but maybe it's the truth that your son is going to bring about the end of the world. We have to take him down. Maybe it's something as simple as that. But to your point, I really do agree with you that Leo is probably not the main villain. Maybe maybe he's choosing the path of a lesser evil kind of way. Moonstone, hey, I was wondering what you think the connection between turning people into cards from Duel Monsters, Pegasus turning Kaiba and Mokuba into cards, and turning people into cards in Arc 5. Yeah, it's interesting because we've never seen this element but besides Duel Monsters, and not GX, Duel Monsters was the last time people were being turned into cards. I think it's interesting. I think it could be an ode to that series, especially if we're not going to have any dimension for Duel Monsters, or any characters from Duel Monsters, or any like deck types from Duel Monsters. I think that could be a major ode to the series when it's all said and done. I don't know if there is a connection. I just think it's an element they've used before, and they figured, let's just bring it back. It makes sense to bring back, and it works well in the Arc 5 plotline. 73CHN1N3. Dylan, please answer this question after seeing the cover card of the future set Raging Tempest. What can you make out of it? All of the cover cards have played a prominent role in the anime, and I'm sure this one will too. For me, it looks like a mix of Star Venom and Odd Eyes Pendulum. Does this mean Yuri's coming to the good sign soon? The first fusion pendulum monster. Another possibility is that it's a mix of Jack's Red Dragon Archfiend and Yuya's Odd Eyes Pendulum. Makes sense since they're going to have a tag duel soon. I don't know, what do you think? Again, this question was asked back in like episode 120, 121. And this was, I'm glad this was asked, and I'm analyzing this after the fact, because the two main, everyone thought this was going to be Jack and Yuya or Yuri and Yuya, and I figured it would be one of the two. It's going to be another Yuri and Yuto monster. We now know what the dragon is. It's this guy right here. Odd Eyes Raging Dragon, the Supreme King Violent Dragon. And I have to say, this guy, Rarity Fangirl, told me that this card is absolutely broken, and I didn't get a chance to read it. She told me about it, and I looked at it here. Pendulum effect. Once per turn, if you have no cards in your other Pendulum Zone, you can place one Pendulum monster from your deck in your Pendulum Zone. So as long as you have this card, you can basically just Pendulum. So here's the monster effect, and I believe this is the TCG effect, not the anime effect, and usually the anime effects are more OP. 2 level 7 dragon-type monsters. If you can Pendulum Summon level 7, you can Pendulum Summon this face-up card in your extra deck. If this card is Xyz summoned using an Xyz monster as a material, it gains these effects. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible, and if you do this, this card gains 200 attack for each card destroyed until the end of this turn. I can already kind of see how this is going to play out. He's going to be in Berserk. He's going to summon this Odd Eyes Raging Dragon. He's going to destroy every card Rory and Serena control. It's going to destroy like 7 or 8 cards. It's going to gain another 2,000 attack points. It's going to be at 5,000 attack points or so. It's going to be able to attack twice. It's going to attack both of them directly. They have no cards on their field, and that's the duel. Did I just spoil episode 125? I guess we'll find out, but I'm going to hold myself to that. I can already see how it's going to play out. Will it be as straightforward as that? Probably not. I kind of hope it's not, but this card is just absolutely a beast, and it's a shame that it's another Xyz pendulum monster, though. We've gotten so many of them, but I guess they're still focusing on the relationship between Yuto and Yuya. It is what it is. I cannot wait to see this card in action. Trayshawn Bonds, other than Arc 5, what recent anime have you watched? Honestly, it even goes beyond that to TV shows. In terms of like TV shows, I watch Impractical Jokers, but other than that, it's really just Yu-Gi-Oh! I really just don't have time to watch anything else. I play a lot of PlayStation 4 in my free time. I work on YouTube videos. I do my job. I go to college, and that's pretty much it. It's really just Arc 5, but I'm more than content. I just love the show. Phone Pup MK8. My first question, do you think the show was originally meant to go longer than 150, but then something happened with the budget around the Synchro arc, so they had to shorten it? If that's the case, I'm sure we will have to wait until later on to get confirmation. My thoughts on this was actually kind of a good one, that the fact that it was going to be shorter and it was going to be the same length of GX, or not GX, of 5Ds and Zexal, maybe means that they are planning to do a 6th series, which, as you guys know, is a bit of a concern of mine, that this might be the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! If the show was going to go like 190, 200 episodes, I would have been convinced that this was it. This was their final go of things, and they were just going to try to make this as good of a series as possible. That could be the case, not really sure. My second question, how long do you think Rory and Rin have been held by Academia? I asked this in a different video, but I think it's okay to ask again. Thanks. Timeline is tricky for this. I would say maybe half a year. I think this happened pretty quickly, so I would think maybe Rin was gone for 4 months, maybe Rory was gone for 6 months, something along those lines, but that's really left up to interpretation. Jean-Marlin Lazar, loving the consistent quality. You're doing great, man. Thank you, Jean. Thank you so much. I don't believe Reiji Akiba is evil or working with his father at all, but I notice he has very questionable morals. He was willing to look past Shun's crimes just because he wanted a valuable soldier and doesn't seem bothered by all the innocent people he carded. When the Obelisk Force invaded Standard Dimension, he sent the first Lancers team knowing that they would fail. He's very the end justifies the means, and I'm wondering if you think that's a negative quality about him. He's pretty much gotten no character development, so I'd really like it if they call attention to this. I like that a lot too, actually, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's not something I've really thought about in detail. You're right, Shun carded so many people including including the XZ's duelist that went to the academy. Like, he's carded a lot of people, and Reiji looked past it. He is a get it done kind of guy, and I do feel like if you personally knew him, he's probably a very cold and distant person. That could be because his mom is crazy, and he obviously had a very tough childhood with his dad, so I understand why he's like that. I still love him as a character, but I do like that you brought that up, because he's not the nicest guy in the world. He's really not, and he definitely does have... There's a difference between doing things legally, and we talk about this in business all the time, doing things legally and doing things ethically. You can be legal but not be ethical, and I think Reiji would fall under that category where he's still like, you know, sure, he can add Shun to his team, no one is stopping him, but is it an ethical thing to do, adding someone to your team that's killed off about 10 or 15 of your people? He sent the First Lancers team pretty much to their death. Yeah, he definitely has interesting motives. I'll leave it at that. Dwayne Johnson, I'm going to skip down to the third question. We still haven't gotten a second Zexal character, and since Arc 5 is going to be at least 150, who should come back? Problem is, we have like maybe 30 episodes left. I just think they've really snubbed a Zexal character, because you have to remember, if they're going to have another character, following recent traditions, they're going to announce him, and when they announce him, we have to still wait about 7 or 8 episodes before they debut. So even if they announced a Zexal character tomorrow, we're still going to have to wait about till 130, 131, and at that point, what are they going to add to the show? So it's a shame. I think a second Zexal character really should have come back, even if it was someone like Droid or Gauche. I think someone like them. It didn't have to be like a major character, but I think it's a shame. I really think they've snubbed Zexal, and I don't think that we are going to get a second Zexal character, unfortunately. Shadow Torterra asks this. I would suggest you pause it right here. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the kind words at the bottom. Your English, again, is fine. I know English is a very difficult language. It's basically just about Arc Area Project and the relationship between Yuya's pendant and the 4 bracelets, and that at the end of the series, there's just going to be 2 separate people. All of the Yus formed into someone, all of the Yu girls, the bracelet girls, formed into someone. So, it's an interesting theory. I would definitely recommend you pause it. I like it a lot. This is something, by the way, if you have a longer question like this, submit this to me on email, because I'm going to start doing something called Fan Theory Friday, where I'll analyze like longer page-like theories and I'll read them out loud and stuff. For Q&As, I'd rather keep them short. Obviously, I'm not angry that you asked it on Q&A. Don't get that impression, Shadow. I appreciate the question. But in the future, if you have longer questions, especially theories, fan art, anything like that, send it to me on my email, and I will try to, and say this is for Fan Fiction Friday, or not Fan Fiction Friday, sorry, Fan Theory Friday. And that's a new segment that I want to start doing. So this is more of a fan theory, kind of longer time to an analyzed video. But still an interesting theory, definitely. And give it a pause, give it a read. Aquaclaw 11. What do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5's epilogue duel will be? You know, like Judai vs. Yugi, Yusei vs. Jack. Right now, I can only see Yuya vs. Yugioh. I think Akiba Reiji could give a post-finale Yuya a run for his money. There just hasn't been enough of a grudge built up between them, and I think Yugioh would be a fitting duel, since it would be Yuya finally surpassing his father. Maybe the whole cast and everyone is in standard watching, and they have everyone smiling by the end of the duel. Yeah, I agree with that. If I had $10 and I had to place a bet on what the final duel would be, I would put it on Yuya versus Yugioh. The other options I could see are Yuya versus Yuzu, Yuya versus Yuto, and Yuya versus Reiji. Those are the other 3 that I can kind of prominently see. Maybe Yuya versus Gangenzaga or Shingo. I really don't think so. That's a stretch. I think out of those 4, Yuya versus Yugioh definitely is the favorite right now to be the final duel of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. Caliber J. Bowden. Fun question. Who do you think is the best looking bracelet girl? I think Ruri is. I've actually been asked this question a lot. I probably would say Serena or Rin. I love green hair. Oh, I love green hair, yeah, because green hair is so common. No, I love the color green, so that's why I kind of like Rin's look. Ruri is definitely, I think, probably the fan favorite. Yuzu's also, I mean, they're all fine looking. I think they're all pretty good looking girls. But I would probably give it to Rin or Serena personally. What do you think Academia does with their carded victims? I think it's going to be used in like a mass sacrifice. It's powering that green machine that we've seen, but asked by Killjoy Otaku, by the way, I apologize. It's powering the green machine. What that green machine is going to be used for, I think that's the real question, and that's a question that I have no clue. I have no answer to. Breezy PZ, hey Dylan, what's up? Just have a quick question I've been deep in thought about for a while now. We know Yuya's dad gave Yuya the pendulum at a fairly young age, and if I remember correctly, it was near the time where Yugioh disappeared. So really, if this pendulum were to contain some kind of weird power, it would be from the standard dimension. I don't know if I'm onto something, but if this is true, I feel like the pendulum will... I really don't feel like the pendulum will really be that important. Well, this again was asked before. Now that we know the opening and ending titles both contain the word pendulum, I think the pendulum triggers Berserk mode. Also, the pendulum created these pendulum monsters. So I disagree with you there, Breezy. I think the pendulum is going to be important to some extent. It might not be like the main factor down the road, but I think it definitely is going to have an interesting role. Even if it is from Standard Dimension, Standard Dimension could be the dimension that everything was a part of at first, and then the other worlds broke off of. So even if it is a Standard Dimension item, I still think it could play a role down the road. Media FX100, do you think that it's possible that Pegasus might be responsible for entertainment dueling if Arc 5 does have connections with Duel Monsters? Pegasus created the Toon deck for himself, as it's a deck that brings him joy and fun. Toons were also the first cute and goofy decks to come out for Yu-Gi-Oh! Just a thought. Love your videos, man. I like that thought a lot, I really do. Now, the Toons, to me, when I was younger, were always just creepy as hell. They are, I mean, they are supposed to be cute and goofy, but they're also, like, very taunty and annoying to the opponent. So, it would be interesting. It would be interesting if Pegasus was in this or played a part in this. What's interesting to me, too, is he was the one who created Duel Monsters. It seems like Reiji's company is the one that kind of created Duel Monsters in this different world. So, I don't know. It's confusing to me, but it would be interesting if Pegasus used a Toon deck and it was like he was like the inspiration for Yugioh or something like that. It would be interesting. Inferno asks, Academia seals duelist cards after a loss, but this ability was at the Millennium Eye Pegasus. Whether it is possible Academia to use Millennium items. Sorry of my English. Your English is fine. I believe what you are asking is, do you think Academia is using Millennium items? I don't think so. I really don't. I think if they were using Millennium items, I would not know what to think, because now all of a sudden you're telling me Bakura is going to have a role in this, Yugi's going to have a role in this, and it would just as if the plot line's not confusing enough. I don't think they are. I think they have a technology this far in the future or on this different timeline that they're just able to card people because technology is so advanced based on comparing it to the technology that was used in Duel Monsters. Optic Slayer asks, if you were a signer or dark signer, who would you be and why? I would be Luna because I want to see the spirit world. Well, that's definitely a fair reason to be Luna. I would probably be... I would actually probably pick Luna. And I would say that because she has the ability to go into that other world where other characters really don't. I mean, if you pick a dark signer, you're fighting for the destruction of the world. I wouldn't do that. And Luna has that extra element, so I would probably agree with you there. And the final question of the Q&A, if you were on any Yu-Gi-Oh series, which one would you be in? I would pick GX. I've said this before, I just love the element of kind of a college-like feel, where you're with people that have the same exact interests as you. I really enjoy that. Not the Duel Academy in Arc 5. The Duel Academy in GX, not the one, of course they had issues themselves, but that's the one I would probably pick with. Well, guys, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for watching Q&A number 7. Again, I apologize that these are once a month now, but they're just very difficult. They're the most time-consuming videos for me to make in terms of sitting down and recording. Like, if I'm in class, I shouldn't be saying this, but I can work on a script for a video and you know, give bullet points and stuff like that. With this, I really need to, you know, physically go and get screenshots, and then the editing is very gruesome. So, I love making them, and I really do love that you guys ask me questions. I didn't want to get rid of this segment completely. I do apologize again that it is once a month now. So, please ask me any questions you have. Use Q&A for the format so I can just quickly search them in the comments feed and try to comment your question on this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until the next video, I will see you guys later. Thank you for watching.